Is Rishi Sunak right to back a rise in pensions? 0207 862 2222 is the number. Tell us what you think. The Prime Minister has stood by his government's triple lock pledge, which could see state pensions rise by over 8% next year, according to some predictions. The pensions guarantee means they rise each April based on whichever is highest out of wage growth, price inflation, or a 2.5% rate. But this could cost the Treasury an extra £10 billion next year. And it comes at a time when public sector workers like police officers, NHS staff and teachers received around a 5 to 7% rise. Is Rishi right to say he'll keep increasing state pensions in this way? Benjamin.
He's wrong. He's completely wrong. I think mentally as a country, we still live in an area where it's like 30 years ago when a significant proportion of pensioners were very poor and it wasn't the safety net that it is now. Today, a third of pensioners are millionaires. Only 1 in 4 live in poverty, and those ones, I think, are where the money should be focused on. For the rest, you now have a situation where, according to one projection, in about 2 years' time, the average pensioner will have a greater disposable income than the average person in their 20s. Now, that is completely unsustainable. You look at this triple lock, which gives a variety of measures to make sure you get the highest increase, whether it's inflation or wage inflation, and that will cost us another £10 billion extra. The cost of pensions will be more than the Home Office, the Department for Education and the Department for Defence combined within the next couple of years. We can't afford that, and it is a myth that most pensioners are living in poverty. Most pensioners are not in poverty. Thank God they shouldn't be, but why should people that are young people, if you get a graduate job that earns about 40k and you've had a tuition fees, you've had a loan to do your degree, you're paying over 50% in tax, you're paying a third of your income in rent, mortgages are out of sky high. This isn't a sustainable model for an economy.
The pension is something that people have contributed into through national insurance through their lives.
I'm sorry, this myth is such a problem. People, what they paid in is nothing like what they take out. Because when they paid in, they worked for maybe 30, 35 years, 40 years maybe, they're going to spend some of them that long as pensioners. And so the idea that they're taking out what they put in just isn't the case. There are 12.6 million pensioners right now. How can you afford to pay them 130 billion quid a year?
Very quickly, can we afford this?
Yes, of course we can. And not only can we afford it, those pensioners blooming deserve it. The average private sector wage rise has gone up by 7.4% in this country. These people have paid in all their lives. They deserve it.
OK, we're going to take some calls. We'll hear from Pat in Staffordshire. Can we afford the triple lock? Is it time to freeze pensions, Pat?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I've phoned up today because I'm really, really angry that this question has even been asked. For some reason these days, people just seem to hate older people. Yes. I don't know why you don't just lock us all up or shoot us when we reach 70. Remember that you'll all be old one day. Our living costs are the same as everyone else's.
No, they're not.
My gas, my electric, my bread, my milk. And at the moment, there are currently 2 pension schemes running side by side. The old state pension, which I'm on, and in 2016 it changed to the new state pension. Those people get almost £50 a week more than I do. Why? I don't know. I worked 44 years paying not only national insurance, Mr. Benjamin Button, but taxes to support this country. That needs to be looked at, the 2 different state pensions. If you don't agree with the triple lock, all you clever clogs come up with something else, a better system. And another thing, finally, to worth looking at, all the people, there are some who can't work. There are a lot who simply won't work. And what you maybe don't realise is, when the pension increase comes along, they get the same increase as us and have paid nothing in all their life. I'm absolutely disgusted.
OK, Pat, I want to hear from Benjamin Button.
But butter rather than button. But look, Pat, Yeah, first of all, obviously older people pensioners don't have a mortgage, and so there is a significant difference in their cost of living.
That's a massive assumption there, Benjamin.
But it's very unusual for a pensioner
I'm afraid
to
that's
have
not
a
the
mortgage.
case. That's a huge generalisation. Many
It's not a huge
pensioners
generalisation.
are still
Come
paying
back-
off their mortgages well into their pensionable age.
Come back with the fact, well, I tell you what, people of my generation, younger people, anyone under 40, doesn't have a hope in hell of having paid off their mortgage. And, you know, this triple lock has only been around for about 10 years. It was not always this case. And it was not invented to have nearly 10% rises in the state pension every year. And also, you hear this false claim often that the pension in the UK is the lowest in the Western world. It's not, because most people, the majority of their pension is their private company.
OK, I want to take some more calls. We'll hear from Terry in Kent. Is it time to freeze the triple lock? Get rid of the triple lock, freeze the pension, Terry?
No, the thing is, what you've got to remember is the fact is, I've worked 50 years, over 50 years now. For only 30 years of me working pay for my pension. The rest of the money pay for people's benefits. Plus, the pension increase we've had, because they have not increased the allowance, we're just paying more tax on it.
So,
You know, and they're not being funny, you know, and just that bloke you got in there. I own my own place, but I'm not a millionaire. I'm only getting, I'm only getting like £1,000 coming in a month just to pay the bills. Just because you own your own house, it doesn't mean you're rich. Because, John, if you sold your house and then bought somewhere else, then yeah, I agree with you. But I live in a mobile home, and my house is not worth the thousands of pounds what he's reckoning it is.
I mean, this is the reality, that these rises are only there based on the cost of living. So they're only there. Then no one's getting rich from this, Benjamin. It's literally to cover what people are spending and the increased things on basic things like rent and food. That's all it's there to do.
But look, you know, where does this money come from, right? Anything else you hear, and it's often pensioners, this generation that controls the British political system, the ones that took us out of the EU, that supported
God
things
almighty.
like tuition fees, that is taking opportunities from a younger
Okay,
generation.
Dawn.
It is a third of pensioners are millionaires. At what point do we say that they can't just have 10 billion extra
Is
a year?
Benjamin pension blaming here?
God, I had so many generalisations, Benjamin Button. I've never heard of so much rubbish in my life. Look, most people, millionaires, right, on paper, a lot of people, certainly in London, South East and in big cities, are maybe living in properties that are worth a lot of money on paper, right? But they can't sell those properties at the moment because of the state of the economy, we know. So, but they are still surviving on this 200 quid a week pension that you begrudge them.
Most people, majority of their income is from their private pension and not from the state.
What a generalisation. Not everyone's got private
No, it is.
pensions.
That's a fact. Yeah, but that's a fact that the majority have a company pension. That
And
is
it
more,
might be a tiny, weeny, rubbish one.
And you also had end of, final salary pension. So that is much more generous than what
Not
anyone
for
coming
a long
behind them.
time.
And the problem is that, when it comes to this, people just sit there and they go, oh, well, we can find the money, we'll make it happen, we'll invent it. But when it costs 130 billion quid, more than 3 massive government departments, where is the point? Okay, if we take your argument, where is the line when we say this is actually out of control? The country is bankrupt. Young people can barely afford to rent, let to buy. When do we draw the line, Dawn?
What is this entitlement about owning your own home? That's all I get from young people.
This is a generation that won't even pay for their own care.
Pardon?
This is a generation that won't even pay for their own care.
They have to pay for their own care most of the time.
The country doesn't work like that.
Look, statistically, Benjamin, right, your age group are richer than the generations that came before.
That's nonsense.
That is not nonsense.
Nonsense.
That is the latest statistic. Wealth has risen 3 times national income in the 1980s to 8 times today. So you are
I really wasn't born in the 1980s, but thanks.
No, but your younger generation. Budgets of households with baby boomers grew up in would be considered austerity now. 33% of household expenditure on food. Today, it's 16%.
It sounds like
I'm sorry, you're entitled generation.
There is some resentment. It feels like there's a real split between people who own their own homes and people who, many of them, won't be able to own their own, to buy their own
Terry
homes.
was living in a mobile home.
Don't tell me. You find me a single person who seriously believes that the average income and the basic costs, such as a home, are easier now than they were 40 years ago. Okay. They're just not.
I think we could carry this on a lot longer, but unfortunately, we have to go to the break. Thank you so much for your calls on this. We scratched the surface. We know that there's so much more to talk about.